But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it. Once the Jewish people were stateless, once the Jewish people were defenseless.
Welcome to the U.S. Eagle Eye YouTube channel. As the war between the Israeli army and Hamas militants escalates, the eyes of the world are on both sides. Israel, which suspended its ground operation due to unfavorable weather conditions, has stepped up its airstrikes against Hamas militants. Many Hamas targets were destroyed and Hamas militants were eliminated in the clashes where missiles flew and rocket sounds echoed in the sky. The striking images shared on the social media platform X today were a brief summary of the events of the war. The footage released by the Israeli Defense Forces showed Israeli warplanes striking a Hamas military headquarters and eliminating a Hamas operative. The IDF also reported that it struck 200 targets in Gaza overnight, hitting what it described as Hamas's operational headquarters, as well as several tunnels used by Hamas fighters and a bank that the group said financed its operations. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces reiterated that they will not stop until Hamas is eliminated. Hamas confirmed in a statement that one of its top militant commanders was killed in an Israeli airstrike in the central Gaza Strip. Ayman Nofal, alias Abu Ahmed, was a member of the General Military Council of the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, in charge of the central Gaza region, Hamas said in a statement. Nofal is the highest-profile Hamas militant killed so far in the Israeli bombardment of Gaza. Nofal was the commander of Hamas's Central Brigade in Gaza and a former head of military intelligence. Nofal led several attacks against Israeli civilians and was one of the terrorist organization's most dominant figures, as well as being involved in the planning of the kidnapping of Gilad Shalit. In a statement on X, the Israeli army confirmed the killing of Nofal and described him as one of the most dominant figures in the organization. Israel's killing of Nofal comes after the Israeli military warned of an expected ground offensive in Gaza to eliminate the Hamas militant group. Earlier in the day, the Israel Defense Forces and the Israel Securities Authority announced that ISA intelligence and IDF warplanes operated in the Gaza Strip and killed Bilal al-Qedra, the Nukba commander of forces in southern Khan Yunis. The sounds of war also echoed on both sides of Israel's northern border with Lebanon. Sirens are wailing in Israeli towns, warning of the approach of rockets fired by the Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon. Lebanese civilians have fled their villages, fearing Israeli shelling and the possibility of another war. Tensions have risen along Israel's northern border since Hamas launched its deadly attack on southern Israel, raising fears of a new conflict between Israel and Hamas' Iranian-backed ally, Hezbollah, in Lebanon. The Israel Defense Forces said 9 rockets were fired from Lebanon at the northern Israeli region of Kiryat Shmona less than an hour ago. The IDF says 4 were intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system. At least 1 rocket landed in an open area inside Kiryat Shmona, causing no injuries or damage. Separately, the IDF said it carried out a drone strike on a terror cell launching mortars from Lebanon in the Tel Turmus area near Mount Dov in northern Israel. The IDF also says more anti-tank guided missiles were fired from Lebanon, targeting the northern towns of Metula, Malkiya, and Manara. The army says the launch sites were responded to with artillery shelling. There were also striking statements from the Hezbollah front. Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for an attack on an Israeli tank on the border between Israel and Lebanon earlier today. According to a statement released by the Iranian-backed armed group, the attack targeted a Merkava tank and resulted in a direct hit that killed and wounded its crew. If you recall, Hezbollah announced yesterday that 5 of its fighters had been killed, without giving further details about the date or place. The statement did not mention the number of Israeli casualties. In a separate video released today, Hezbollah claimed that yesterday afternoon, the Israeli army targeted another Merkava tank in the Al-Bayad area and inflicted confirmed casualties with guided missiles. On the other hand, the Gaza side of the Rafah border crossing witnessed sporadic explosions throughout the day, according to a news reporter on the Egyptian side of the border. At approximately 4 p.m. local time in Egypt, a small explosion was heard in the area between the Gaza and Egyptian sides of the crossing. The cause of the explosion has not yet been determined. An Egyptian military drone was seen flying over the Egyptian side of the border, while an Israeli drone was seen flying over the other side. Aid convoy drivers and volunteers have been waiting on the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing since early last day. The Rafah border crossing with Egypt in the south of the Gaza Strip has been touted as the last hope for Gazans to escape, and many Palestinians have been heading in that direction in anticipation. However, the crossing is currently closed. According to a statement from the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel will not block humanitarian aid from Egypt to Gaza. However, it will not allow supplies to Gaza from its territory until Hamas releases all hostages. In accordance with President Biden's request, Israel will not block the delivery of humanitarian aid to the civilian population in the southern Gaza Strip as long as it consists of water, food, and medicine, and as long as the aid does not reach Hamas, the office said in a statement. U.S. President Joe Biden said Israel recognizes that humanitarian aid can pass from Egypt to Gaza, warning that any attempt by Hamas to steal the aid would show that it has no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Department said it was taking action to stem the flow of revenue to Hamas by sanctioning 10 individuals with ties to the organization. This includes imposing sanctions and coordinating with allies and partners to pursue, freeze, and seize any Hamas-related assets in their jurisdictions, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in a press release. According to the Treasury Department, the new sanctions target 6 individuals associated with Hamas's secret investment portfolio, 2 senior Hamas officials, and a Gaza-based virtual currency exchange and its operator. In addition, Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo announced that the administration aims to build a multinational coalition to curb terrorist financing, and that senior Treasury officials will travel to the region to continue coordination. The U.S. is also increasing its support for Israel as it imposes sanctions against the Hamas terrorist organization. U.S. President Joe Biden plans to address Congress with a request for an unprecedented package of support for Israel's defense. Biden said, "Later this week, I will ask the U.S. Congress for an unprecedented package of support for Israel's defense." Biden also stressed that the United States intends to keep the Israeli air defense system, Iron Dome, fully procured. The U.S. president also announced the allocation of $100 million in aid to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. It is worth noting that according to media reports, Israel has requested extraordinary military aid from the U.S. amounting to $10 billion. Other current developments of the day are as follows. Germany deployed special units of the Bundeswehr to Cyprus in preparation for the possible evacuation of its citizens living in the Gaza Strip due to the escalation of hostilities. Germany is reportedly deploying special units in preparation in case it has to evacuate Germans who are being held hostage or who want to leave the Gaza Strip. Sources also reported that the command of the Army Special Forces has been moved to Cyprus along with its equipment. Special-purpose special naval forces, known as combat swimmers, also have been moved nearby, mainly on land, in case the fighting escalates and it becomes necessary to remove the Germans from Lebanon in a strong operation. This will allow the Bundeswehr to intervene from the Mediterranean. Special units of the German Federal Police specializing in hostage rescue, the GSG-9, as well as A-400M and C-130 military transport aircraft, have also been deployed to the island. Sources in the German government said, "We are starting from a low base and are ready for any scenario." The possible operation could be aimed at rescuing German hostages from Hamas captivity or evacuating all German citizens from the Gaza Strip or Lebanon. If the evacuation is carried out with the participation of German special forces, it could involve double-digit numbers of people. According to the German office, there are currently 8 German citizens among the hostages held by Hamas. It seems that the war in the Middle East is mobilizing countries around the world. This is a developing story. Please stay tuned. Thank you for watching.